Candelaria, our very dear friends from the NEA, the Secretary-Treasurer of the NEA, and one of our closest friends. We also have 3 representatives from Texas who have been absconded from Texas fighting this issue of redistricting. They are our leaders. They are on the front lines. They are fighting for our rights. They are trying to erase us, but we will not be erased. We're not going anywhere. Let me be very clear about that. We're not going anywhere. So our discussion is going to weave in between redistricting and also the impact it's going to have on education, not just in Texas, but around the country. Because the one thing that Texas is trying to do is they're trying to export bias. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to rig the system and the courts to silence our votes, because they know if they can get it passed in Texas and in the courts in Texas, then Tennessee is going to do the same thing, and Georgia and Alabama and other southern and red states as well. So we have to hold the line in Texas. So with that, it's my pleasure to have Representative Casar kick us off.
Buenos dias or buenas tardes, wherever it is you are. I know that y'all are in California, so buenos dias. I'm Greg Casar. I represent Central Texas in the United States Congress. Thank you, Juan. Thank you, President Palomares, for having us. Good to see my friend Noel Candelaria up there with you. And I'm so proud of the democracy defenders, the Texas Democrats who are on this call. Representative Talarico and Morales are doing an incredible job. But I want to lay out the stakes for everybody there watching. You know, LULAC was founded here in the state of Texas at a time when Latinos were not allowed to serve on juries, where there were segregated schools for Mexican Americans, and at a time when political maps were drawn in a way that allowed no Latinos to serve in elected office, and in a way that suppressed the votes of Hispanic and African Americans alike. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 was passed and signed into law by President Lyndon Baines Johnson to ban the kinds of voter suppression and the kinds of gerrymandered maps, racially gerrymandered maps, that had prevented fair representation and a full expression of American democracy in places like Texas. Well, I really hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we have to tell the truth to our people. The kind of map that Donald Trump is pushing right now in Texas is exactly the kind of map that they pushed pre-1965, that so many of our elders, I know many of whom are still with us, and those that have gone before us, that they fought to defeat, and they're trying to bring us back to that very place. I'm proud to represent an overwhelmingly working class, overwhelmingly Latino opportunity district between San Antonio and my home city of Austin, Texas. And if Donald Trump is successful in essentially merging my district with fellow districts, chopping up our cities, and eliminating Latino opportunity districts here in the heart of Texas, he's going to take that plan all across America. What they essentially want to do is not just take 5 seats here in Texas, they want to take over a dozen, if not over 2 dozen seats in red states across America. And this isn't about necessarily just Democrats in Congress, it's about our voters. It's our voters, working class people, who go in day after day to the fields and to the construction sites and into schools and to teach people and invent things, are folks who deserve to be able to elect and unelect their politicians. But instead, now Donald Trump is saying, no, 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 you don't get to elect and unelect your politicians. He says he gets to pick. He wants to be able to say that he owns these districts. Donald Trump just said he's entitled to 5 seats in Texas, just like he thinks he's entitled to a $400 million bribe in the form of a plane from a foreign government, just like he thinks he's entitled to kick people off their health care and then to give your taxpayer dollars to his billionaire friends. And now Donald Trump says he's entitled to win these midterm elections and to have these seats regardless of the voices of our people. And we're here to say hell no. Texas Democrats are here to say hell no. that example from the brave Texas Democrats who have broken quorum, who've left their families behind, who are now being threatened with arrest or being expelled from office. They're showing the country what it looks like to fight for democracy, just like generations of LULACers and other civil rights leaders have done for our entire history. That's the fight we're in right now. And as they buy us time, these brave Texas Democrats, we need to use that time well. That's why in states from California to New York, Maryland to Washington State, everybody here at this conference from all across the country need to urge their blue state governors to stop playing Boy Scout and Girl Scout, but instead get in the fight and recognize we cannot let our blue states play by one set of rules while people like Greg Abbott and Donald Trump rip the Voting Rights Act to shreds. This is also a time for us to mobilize because no matter how they draw these lines, they can't get rid of the people. They can't get rid of the fact that popular sentiment is strongly against Donald Trump, including now on the issue of immigration. And we need to be able to take back the House and not just be the same old Democratic Party, but instead a Democratic Party that bans gerrymandering for good, that gets big money out of politics and truly delivers for our people. For the folks who don't know if voting makes a difference or not anymore, we really need to prove that. And these Texas Democrats are proving that right now. And so I would just want you all to know how much is on the line. Trump has already said that this is bigger than Texas. If he's able to execute this plan in Texas, he's going to take it all across the country. So we've got to stop him here and now. We can't just have Texans in this fight. We need everybody in this fight alongside us. And as long as I'm upright, I'm proud to be in this fight alongside you all. Thank you very much.
Representative Casar, we're really sorry that you can't join us here in person. I don't know what perspective you have, but we have 500 young leaders in this room. Let's give them a round of applause, please.
Thank you guys so much. La lucha sigue. Grateful to y'all.
And we look forward to getting together with you very soon. Thank you. So we're going to... Are you going to stay with us, or are you going to...
I think I've got to sign off and get back to it, but I'm so grateful to you guys. We'll
see each other. Thank you for all the incredible work that you do. Thank you for fighting for our community. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Representative Morales and Representative Talarico. Yeah. Representative Talarico was supposed to be with us here in person today, a commitment that he made and he has kept. Although we don't have the privilege of him joining us in person, welcome, Representative Talarico.
Thank you all so much for having me. I really wish I was there with all of you in person, but obviously this quorum break takes precedent, and my colleague, Representative Morales, and I are fighting for you and fighting for our constituents back home here in the state of Illinois, where the governor has provided us safe harbor. You may have read that Donald Trump has asked the FBI to find and arrest us. You may have read that Governor Abbott has threatened to vacate our seats, to remove both of us and our other colleagues from our duly elected positions in the Texas House of Representatives. And you may have read that our corrupt Attorney General, Ken Paxton, put up a tweet asking his followers to, quote, hunt us down. And that's why we received a bomb threat at the hotel where we're staying this week. Thankfully, Representative Morales and I and our colleagues are safe and sound, and we're grateful to local law enforcement that is providing our security. But we do have one message, and that is we will not be deterred, because this is bigger than us. It's bigger than any one politician or any one political party. We are fighting to ensure that the people, Democrats, independents, Republicans, black, white, brown, can elect the candidates of their choice, can change their government from the bottom up, can hold powerful leaders, including the President of the United States, accountable with their votes in fair maps. That is what we are fighting for. I know that this is a sophisticated audience, and so you know more about redistricting than most people do, but it is important that we explain what this process is usually supposed to look like and how it has been perverted to protect the people in power, and how they are using these racist map drawing techniques that really are a relic of the 20th century, and we shouldn't be seeing that in 2025. But they are dividing communities of color, Latino and African American communities in our state, and robbing them of the ability to have representation in the halls of power. So that's what this fight is about, and it is our deep honor to be fighting for you, fighting for all Texans and all Americans in this important battle.
Thank you. Thank you. And I would say, if you don't follow him on social media, he's absolutely one of the great voices that we have. So a big fan of that. Representative Morales, would you like to make some opening remarks?
Sure, and yes, I agree with you. Good to see you, James. So I'm a very proud member of LULAC Council 60 in Houston, Texas.
Woo-hoo! All right.
I'm so proud that some of my members asked me to join today, so I'm very grateful for this opportunity. But we have made this quorum break happen because our community, and I hope everyone realizes that our Latino community is under attack. I don't know how many ways we need to say it. I don't know how many alarms that we need to sound, but it is the absolute truth. And this mid-census redistricting, it isn't just lines on a map. It is about silencing our Latino voices. I can tell you that 3 of the districts that are targeted overlap with my district. I represent a majority Latino district. More than 70% of my constituents are Latino. We have mixed status families. Most of the children in my district go to the public schools, and they are taking power away from us. For example, Lindell Park is a beloved Latino neighborhood in my district, and it is where our Congresswoman, Sylvia Garcia, lives, a bold voice for education, healthcare, working families. And they have redrawn her district to just cut out her street, and then the rest of the neighborhood, they've divided in half. So you have a small historic Latino neighborhood divided into 3 congressional districts. So they are taking a machete to the maps, okay? That's the reality. And that will impact the future of our children's education. When you look at the percentage of Latinos that are in our public schools in Texas, but particularly where I am in Houston, Texas. So we're here to protect our vote, our democracy, because this is so much bigger than Houston. This is so much bigger than Texas. This will impact every person in the United States, and particularly every Latino person in the United States. So I stand here proudly with my colleague on this call, and we are here to fight back. And when they say Democrats don't fight back, es pura mentira. Aquí estamos luchando. ¿Verdad que sí, James?
Thank you, Representative Morales. Really quickly, we have some folks standing up in the back. If there's an empty seat next to you, can you raise your hand so they can find a seat? Okay. Come on up. Please find a seat. We want to make sure we can accommodate everybody. There's 2 seats over here in the front and some right there in the middle. Let's give a hand to these young leaders. They can be anywhere, but they're here with us today. And I also want to say thank you very much to Flor Martinez. We have 40 young immigrants, migrant workers from Oxnard that have joined us as well. So they're there in the house. Let's give Oxnard a round of applause for being in the house. So let's go ahead and get started with our discussion. I'm going to ask the first question to our dear friend Noel. Redistricting can often feel abstract, but it has very real consequences. What are the most tangible ways you have seen that the new district lines impact public education?
Yeah, thank you, Juan, and muchísimas gracias. Thank you, Representative Talarico and Representative Morales, 2 fierce advocates for public education in the state of Texas who have been unapologetic, and I've had the pleasure of working with them over the years, especially in my previous role as president of the Texas State Teachers Association. But at the end of the day, you heard it's about representation, right? And it's about who is going to be in those seats that are fighting for the resources that our students need, especially when it comes to public education. And I had seen something recently that one of our dear friends in El Paso had posted when he talked about this Republican proposal, and I want to read this. When you talk about representation and why this matters, under the current proposal, white residents will receive one congressional rep for every 445,000 people. Hispanic residents will receive one rep for every 1.4 million people. Black residents will receive one rep for every 2 million people. So when you think about what this means, and what it means as to who is going to be at the table fighting for the resources that our students need, that this future needs, that the future of Texas and the future of this country needs, because we know that about 54% of all students in our Texas public schools are Latino. About 30% of all students in our nation's public schools are Latino. And we've seen what not just the Trump administration, but what Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick have done in Texas with voucherizing and privatizing and trying to privatize public education so that those that have can go and those that don't. And so you think about what impact it has on resources, what impact it has on shaping the policy that is going to create the next generation of leaders, not just in the state of Texas, but across this country. So this is not just something abstract and, it's not going to impact me. It's going to have an impact across the entire state of Texas, and it's going to have an impact on the entire nation. So this is something that folks not just in Texas need to be paying attention to. This is a national issue, like we heard, because if it starts in Texas, it is going to snowball across the country, and they'll try to erase the Latino vote, which they see as the biggest threat for them to hold on to the power. This is systemic racism at work that we are seeing in this country, and we need to call it out for exactly what it is. The reason they target educators and public education, and the reason they target us as unions as well, because unions is where democracy happens in the workplace. Public education is where democracy, the seeds of democracy, are planted in our communities with our students. When you go after public education, you go after its educators. You dismantle democracy, and you dismantle what it means to be able to live up to our ideals as a nation, right? A nation that is in the pursuit of life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and what that means for each and every one of us. And so, yes, this fight is real, and this fight is going to impact every person in this room. And we must not let up, and we must stand in solidarity and do everything we can, whether it's contributing, like I did to my state rep, Vicki Goodwin, who is out there also in Illinois, right, or contributing to Powered by the People, Beto O'Rourke's, organization that is helping contribute that fight, right, or just directly contributing to all of these state Democratic reps who are standing out there and need all of our support, not just in words, but monetarily to help them stay in this fight as long as it takes, because we will win. Y vamos a ganar.
And this is a now fight, but it's also a fight for our future, because we're talking about the education of our children. Listen, I went to public school. I went to community college. I went to city college, okay? And I know the value of the public school system, and all of my kids go to public school. And I'm proud of that. And we will always stand with our partners at the NEA and our teachers, many of which are LULAC members. Representative Talarico, you've spoken very eloquently about charter schools and fought against the charter reform movement in Texas, also the separation of church and state. What are your thoughts on this issue and with the potential impact that this redistricting will actually have on our students in the education system?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I was born to a single mom. She was a preacher's daughter from Laredo, Texas, and she moved up to Austin, and she didn't have a college education. She didn't get the chance to go to college. But because of Texas public schools and Texas public school teachers, I got to go to the University of Texas, a great public university. It's the only reason that I'm on this Zoom right now. And I bet that's true for a lot of people at this conference. In fact, I'd love to ask for a show of hands, who would not be the informed, active citizen that you are, the informed activist that you are without public schools?
All right.
So that's the proof you need right there, right? To illustrate the point that was just made. You don't have a democracy without public education. And that's exactly why they're trying to dismantle it. So before I was an elected official, I was a public school teacher. I taught sixth grade language arts at Rhodes Middle School on the west side of San Antonio. I often joke that teaching middle school is the best preparation for politics. It's pretty similar to teaching middle school. But the west side is this beautiful, historic Mexican-American neighborhood, and it's also one of the poorest zip codes in our state. I remember I taught in the classroom right after the Texas legislature cut over $5 billion from our schools. This was back in 2011. And so I was there in the trenches, in the breach. I taught 45 kids in one classroom. I mean, and there weren't enough desks for all of my students. So I had children sitting on the air conditioning unit in the wealthiest country in human history, in one of the wealthiest states in that wealthy country, in the 21st century, children sitting on the air conditioning unit. And it made me mad because my students on the west side, they were smart, they were tough, they were talented. And there is, I think every teacher or educator in the room knows, there is so much talent trapped in poverty in states like Texas and across the country. It is a waste of our human potential. And education is about allowing every child, regardless of their skin color, regardless of their zip code, to fulfill that God-given potential. And so that's why I ran for the legislature, and it's why I fight so hard, along with Representative Morales, to defend, to fully fund, to improve our Texas public schools. And this voucher bill that just passed, it is going to take desperately needed funding out of our already underfunded public schools. You know, Texas ranks 43rd in the nation in per student education funding. It's going to take dollars out of those schools, and it's going to give those dollars to unaccountable private schools that primarily serve the wealthy few. And we've seen this in every other state that has tried vouchers. The vast majority of the money ends up going to the wealthiest people in those states who are already sending their kids to private school. And so it's a transfer of wealth from working people, from middle-class people, to the people at the very top. And it's exactly what we've seen in Washington, D.C. with the big, beautiful bill, kicking people off their health care to fund tax breaks for billionaires. The only way to stop these policies is for people to be able to vote in free and fair elections, to hold their representatives accountable. The reason Greg Abbott passed that bill, it's not because it's popular in Texas. In fact, it's very unpopular among communities of color, among urban and suburban Texans, but also among rural Republicans who cherish their small-town public schools, their Friday night lights. So it's a broad coalition of Texans who reject vouchers. The reason Greg Abbott was able to pass it is because there was an out-of-state billionaire from Pennsylvania named Jeff Yass who gave Greg Abbott $12 million last year to pass that voucher. And when Greg Abbott signed it into law in the governor's mansion, Jeff Yass was right over his shoulder looking to make sure that his investment paid off. And so this corruption is antithetical to democracy. And the only way to stop it is for people to be able to vote and hold their representatives and their leaders accountable. And it's why they're trying to rig the game, because they know these policies are unpopular. So they're trying to rig this next election. They're drawing these maps so that they can guarantee the outcome they want. They can manufacture the outcome, and they're trying to insulate themselves from the will of the people, from consequences, from accountability. And this should be alarming to all of us, regardless of your political party, regardless of where you live. This is fundamental to a representative democracy, and it is at risk if we allow these maps to pass, and it's why we've taken this extreme step of leaving our beloved state and breaking quorum and stopping this corrupt process.
I am reminded of another school teacher from Texas, Lyndon B. Johnson, who went on to be president, who went on to sign the Civil Rights Act. So maybe one day we will see Tellerico on the national stage. Representative Morales, I always go to my mom to get grounded on the things that are important to our families. We're blessed. We're very blessed. And we're blessed to actually have Representative Morales here. I'd love to get your thoughts and perspectives.
Sure. Well, I'm thinking, when you said moms right now, I'm thinking of one of my constituents. Her name is Carmen Nuncio. And she's an amazing lady who has been volunteering in our public schools for 50 years, showing up at the school to help young students learn how to read, do their homework. Amazing lady. And she was one of the ones who reached out to me when we needed to have a press conference about everything that's going on with this redistricting. So you have folks who have spent years building these relationships with our schools, and that the same goes for our members of Congress. These are people who understand and know these constituents and have been working in these districts for a long time. And we're about to tear that apart. And I mentioned Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia. So in the new district, the way it's redrawn, if she wins it, because, you know, now it's so different than what it was, she will have so many more school districts within her district. And right now, when our state has literally taken over our school district, they've stolen our school district. It's no longer a Democratic-led school district. And we have this tyrant running our schools. His name is Mike Miles, in case you want to know. We need people who can stand up for our public schools, as has done Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia, and may she rest in peace, Sheila Jackson Lee, who was there at every press conference talking about how we cannot have a school taken over by our state. And we see Donald Trump dismantling the Department of Education. Why? Because it's mostly Latinos in our education system. That's the way it is in my neck of the woods. And then, as my colleague mentioned, we have Governor Abbott, who passed this voucher scheme, this voucher scam. He tries to accuse us of bribery, but we know that he received a $6 million campaign contribution from Jeff Yaz, some guy who lives in another state. And this is going to directly impact our Latino students. We can't let that happen. This is going to tear apart our communities. And I'm so proud that we are here fighting back, because when we're here standing for democracy, we're not only fighting back on this redistricting, but we're fighting for good schools, for protection for our kids so that we live in safe communities, for our working families, for health care, for Medicare, Medicaid. But as my colleague said, a good democracy starts with a good foundation, a good education. And so we must protect our public education at all costs and make sure that all of our students have access to a robust, world-class education. And I believe that we can get there. If young people in the room, help us stand up, get organized, and we can do this, because someday you may be a parent or you may be a grandparent, and you're going to want this for your family as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Representative Morales is bringing up the dismantling of the Department of Education. This is defederalization. This is what they were talking about when they rolled out Project 2025. And we're seeing them implement this terrible, terrible policy playbook, if you will. Not only that, they've attacked our institutions. They've attacked LULAC, and they've also attacked the NEA as well. Noel, what is the NEA doing to fight back? How can we help support you in this work? What are the biggest issues that we need to look out for?
Yeah, thanks for that great question. And yeah, I mean, we've seen, the dismantling of the Department of Education, especially the Office of Civil Rights within the Department of Education that protects our students. And as a special education teacher, especially as a special education teacher from Texas, in which that department had to sue the state of Texas for placing arbitrary caps on the number of identification of students with special needs in our Texas public schools. The U.S. Department of Education had to sue the state of Texas, and that has now been dismantled. So when we think about what this means for our students and our most marginalized students, the protection of students with disabilities, the protection of students who are just trying to advance and are showing up as their full authentic selves, our LGBTQ plus students who are now in direct line and don't have the protections of the federal government to be their full authentic selves and be the best version of themselves when they walk into our nation's public schools. See, that is what's at risk in this moment, is the very protection of what it means to be not just a child, but to ensure that your full authentic self is truly protected as you try to be the best version of yourself, not just for you and your family, but for your community. And at NEA, we have been fighting this fight from day one. We have filed multiple lawsuits in which we have been successful. If you go to NEA.org/protect, you can not only see the impacts and the harms of what this administration is doing, but you will also see what you can do to help fight back. How can you join and connect with one of our local unions? We're 3 million strong. We're all across the country. We're in 14,000 communities across this nation. So, we ask you to go and connect with your local union, because this fight is a local fight. What we see happening at the federal level, that fight is a local fight, because now your school board has to determine how are they going to implement those policies. How will you join with your local educators in your community to ensure that we still are protecting our students' rights, that we still are ensuring that diversity is a good thing for our communities, that equity and inclusion are not bad words, but actually is what helps all of us be better. And so, in this moment when, folks are constantly creating, distraction, because that's the aim of this administration. Create chaos, right? And make it seem like, oh my God, they're like, there's just so much going on. Like, where do I go? Where do I turn? And that's why you have organizations like LULAC. You have organizations like the NEA who are laser focused on exactly what the issues are. Exactly what it is and when it is that we need to take action, and where that action needs to take place. Whether that action is at the local level, whether that action is at the state level, like we're seeing our state representatives do in Texas, or at the federal level. And how are we using the court system, which we know is, right now it's iffy, but we still have the systems in place that we can use to our advantage, as a nation that haven't completely, fully been dismantled yet, which is what they're aiming to do. And so join us in this fight, in this moment. Go to NEA.org/protect and find out what you can do to protect students in your communities around immigration. How can we ensure that that learning English is still something that is protected? When this administration basically deleted all the funding, they said, oh, we're going to do English only, but then they eliminated all of the funding that is actually supporting all of our English language learners in our public schools. See, but people don't know that, and that's why you need to be informed and know where to get your information, because right now, with the amount of disinformation that is out there, it is up to us to be able to go to organizations like LULAC, like the NEA, where you can actually get verifiable information that is true and accurate, that then you can share in your communities, that you can share on your own social media, so that we can push back against the disinformation that we're seeing, just perpetuating this country right now. And so it is up to us to fight back. Join with your local educators in your communities so that we can fight back at the grassroots levels and making sure that we're paying attention to every single thing, and don't be silent. Right? Don't just kind of, oh, well, let somebody else take care of it. No. And vote. Yeah. Because that's what they're trying to dismantle right now. Texas has made it one of the hardest states in the country to vote in, and it's not by accident. They used gun violence. Instead of taking action against gun violence, what did they do? They took voting out of our public schools, which a lot of communities, that's where they'd go vote. And that's where students got to see democracy and their neighbors and adults in their communities actually voting. Right? They took that out of our public schools. That's by design. Right? So we have to be able to pay attention and connect all of those dots as to how they're not only trying to dilute our voice, but they're actually trying to erase us from having positions of political power where decisions are made. And we must be the ones that are taking back this country and leading as the fastest growing and the largest, group in this country.
Thank you. Representative Morales and Talarico, a quick last question for you. In this time of these legal battles and political gridlock, what role can civic engagement, especially by students and young leaders in this room, play in defending fair representation and equitable school funding? Oh, did they freeze?
I'll go first.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So listen, I just want to finish off with this because I know James and I have to go off to another meeting pretty soon. But our history shows us that when we get together and we organize, we win. That's how LULAC was formed, right? So young people, please listen, because it really falls on you, and I know we're putting a lot of pressure on you. But the same voices they are trying to silence today will be the same voices that shape the Texas of tomorrow. That's your Texas. That's the Texas you want to live in. So, por favor, necesitamos organizar, por favor. And we need to be able to build a future for all of us, for all of our children, no matter where they live in Texas, and dream bigger than we ever had before. We still, in Houston, Texas, haven't had a Latino mayor yet, but I know one of you is out there and ready, right? So the fight has been brought to us, right? Because we make up the majority of our state and many of our cities. So we're not scared. Many of us grow up in our neighborhoods. I always say I'm from the hood, I'm from Second Ward, so we're not afraid. So let's stand strong and get together and fight. And I just want to finish by saying that they can draw all the lines that they want, but we, Latinos, have the power to draw our future.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know if I could say it better than that. I just want to thank all of you for having us. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your support. And for the young people in the room, that, millennials like me and Gen Zers, they don't get their information from cable news or from newspapers. They get their information on social media. And Representative Morales and I are both on TikTok. We're both on Instagram. Find us on there. Help us get good information out about what's happening in Texas and what's happening across the country. I have total faith in all of you, and I know that you're going to remake this broken political system in your image, and I can't wait for that day. There's construction happening right next door, and so you're not going to be able to hear me. So thank you all again. Wish I was there in person, and let's keep fighting together.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Morales. Thank you, Representative Rico. We'll see you soon in Texas. Noel, final thoughts.
So first on the youth, let's remember that throughout our nation's history, and really the history of the world, our youth have always been at the forefront of change, whether it's been around civil rights, whether it's been against, pushing back, against, police brutality, what we're seeing even with immigration. It's always been our youth in this country, right, that have led us. And so, we must not forget that. And so, let's give it up again for, the incredible panel. We started with Congressman Greg Casar, State Representative Talarico, and Representative Morales for their leadership, their courage, and for laying that bare truth about the fight that we are in, right? And so we just heard not just about lines on a map, right? It's about whether our communities will have a voice in the rooms where decisions are actually made. Right, Congressman Casar talked about how redistricting is being used to dilute the power in his district there in East Austin all the way down to San Antonio. And by extension, the voice of the people who sent him to Washington to be that champion and that fighter for them. Representative Talarico is in the trenches in Texas right now pushing back against those maps that are designed to lock in power for a small, wealthy, and mostly white political class. Representative Morales reminded us of the human impact of how gerrymandering isn't about politics, right? It's about whether Latino students in Texas, the majority for over 15 years now, will have fully funded, well-resourced public education or be left behind. So let's be clear. This is not by accident, right? This is a strategy. As our Latino population, especially our Latino population in the state of Texas, has grown, Texas has systemically disinvested in public education. You can see that line directly. As population increase, you see Texas public education funding decrease. Now the federal government under the Trump administration is ready to go all in on privatizing education through vouchers. And we see the end game. Right, an education system for the haves and the have-nots, a system where if you can afford a private education, you'll be just fine. And if you can't, pues ni modo, you get left behind. And so let's remember that nearly 30% of all U.S. public school students are Latino. In Texas, we are the overwhelming majority in public schools. Public schools educate 90% of all the students in this country and 95% of all the students with disabilities. So when they defund our schools, when they pass vouchers, when they redraw districts to silence our vote, they are attacking the corazón of our democracy and the future of our children. And I say this as a proud son of Mexican immigrants, right? Parents who believed in the promise of this country. My parents, Graciela and Roberto, who came here because they envisioned that dream for their children. And as a public school kid from El Paso, who walked into kindergarten at LeBaron Park Elementary, not knowing one word of English, and standing before you as the Secretary Treasurer of the largest labor union in this country, the National Education Association. That's the promise of public education. See, it was public education, not vouchers, not private academies, that gave me the opportunity. That's why this fight is more than just about maps. It's about representation and access. It's about defending the one system designed to serve every single child in this country, no matter the zip code, no matter the income, the language, or how they arrived into that community or that public school in their immigration status. And at NEA, we will never stand still because we are organizing in every state, including Texas, to stop privatization and keep politics out of our classrooms by defending diversity, equity, and inclusion so that every student truly feels seen and valued. We are suing over unconstitutional education cuts and demanding a permanent path to citizenship for the millions of aspiring Americans who already call this country home. Because our mission rests on two enduring values: equal opportunity and a just society. So here's the truth, familia. We must not only fight back, pero tenemos que luchar hacia adelante. We must fight forward. Say it with me. Fight forward. Say it. Fight forward. See, let's fight forward for the soul of public education. Let's fight forward for the Latino representation. Let's fight forward so that no child in Texas or anywhere in America is told that their dreams are too big. Let's fight forward so that every classroom is just. Every classroom es equitativa, segura y bien equipada. Because you can't put kids first if you keep putting its educators last. And I truly believe, and this is something I truly believe at my core, which is why I do what I do. Juntos podemos cambiar el mundo. Together we can change the world. Un mundo justo racialmente, socialmente y equitativo para todos. A world that is truly racially and socially just and equitable for all. So when I say, el pueblo unido, you say, jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido. El pueblo unido. El pueblo unido. And when I say, when we fight, that's right, porque cuando luchamos, ganamos. And we fight forward, we all win together. Muchas gracias porque uno para todos y todos para uno. Gracias, Lacla. Gracias, Juan. And let's get it done, familia. Let's get it done.
That's why I love Noel. That's why we love the NEA. Thank you so much for the partnership, Noel. Thank you so much for the partnership. And let me say, we had invited Becky. And these attacks are personal. Becky's not here because of a security threat. I'm going to be real. Talarico's not here, right? Because he's been run out of Texas. And Noel also had an attack, a personal attack against him in his home. So I want to say that we're with you, my brother. We're thinking about you, and we got your back.